NCD civil society is coming together in Kigali, Rwanda to exchange knowledge, share good practice, and strengthen capacity to advocate for prevention and control of NCDs. The forum will provide the platform to strategize, coordinate, and unite ahead of the UN high-level meeting on NCDs in 2025 to ensure it brings about a meaningful change for people living with NCDs. The forum is possible thanks to our strategic partnerships and will be convened together with Rwanda NCD Alliance in collaboration with the Rwanda Ministry of Health and Rwanda Biomedical Center. Thanks to our supporters who have contributed to making the Global NCD Alliance Forum a reality.
Good afternoon, everyone. Delegates, civil society, and as we like to say in true African tradition, all protocol observed. It's so wonderful to see so many of you at our final plenary. One would think we're just starting the 3 days now. My name is Liesl Zuhlke. It is my great honor and pleasure to welcome you to this final session of this year's forum. Liesl Farah is sadly not able to join us this afternoon. I am a proud NCDA board member, the Vice President of the South African Medical Council, Research Council, and by profession, I'm a pediatric cardiologist, working each day in the NCD space. Like many, many millions across the world, I too live with an NCD. Wow, what an amazing, productive 3 days we have all had. To say that the forum has come a long way since its beginning in Sharjah 10 years ago is an absolute understatement. Not only was this fourth forum outstanding and deeply impressive in many ways, it was also the first forum on the African continent. It signals our lasting commitment to collaboration, partnership, and leadership on NCDs in the region. The momentum that we have built up here will be so important in the coming months leading up to the fourth high-level meeting on NCDs in September, but also beyond. Based on the discussions and the deliberations of the past days, I truly feel assured that this forum will significantly impact the outcome of the high-level meeting. It has truly been an enormous privilege and pleasure for me to have shared these past 3 days with such a dedicated group of advocates and, like we say, NCD agitators. So let's take a collective moment to actively, and I really do mean actively, reflect on what we have experienced in the last days. So please stand if you are able to, or raise your arms if it was your first time in Africa. Fantastic, look at that. Welcome. Let's stand or raise our, yes indeed. Let's stand or raise our hands if this was your very first time in Kigali, Rwanda. Wow, look at that. That's brilliant. And now let's stand or raise our arms if you've met somebody new this week or made a new connection. And now for the final one, let's stand or let's raise our arms if we're feeling even more inspired and motivated than ever before. Oh, that's wonderful. So, after that really wonderful way of getting us moving, let's take a moment to enjoy the short video of some key highlights from this year's forum.
700 delegates, 66 countries, united for the first time in Africa. Civil society, people living with NCDs, experts, government representatives, private sector, high-profile journalists, partners, youth leaders. 3 intense days at the Kigali Convention Center in Rwanda 5 plenary sessions, 21 thematic parallel sessions, 17 satellite sessions. Our Views, Our Voices, the exhibition, showcasing the stories of people living with NCDs around the world. Leadership, solidarity, collaboration, commitment, community, action, expertise, experience, and creativity. We are impatient for change. It's time to lead on NCDs.
Wow, that was a brilliant video. And thank you so much to Katie and the wonderful NCD Alliance team for being able to put that together in such a short period of time that really encapsulates some of the wonderful moments over the last 3 days. Also yes, thank you. Thank you also to all of those that have shared their own personal photographs in the app, and please feel free to continue to do so as you travel home. Next, we're going to look at a QR code. So it's at the back of your registration badge. I'm sure you saw there were 2 QR codes, one for the app, and then one, of course, for the call to lead. And we want you now to take that opportunity and invite all of you, if you haven't already, to sign on to the NCD Alliance call to lead on NCDs. This open letter to world leaders is a vital advocacy tool, uniting voices from across civil society to demand bold leadership, stronger policies, and greater accountability in the global response to NCDs. It urges governments to honor their commitments and take decisive action at the UN high-level meeting. With every signature, we send a very clear message. The world is watching. Inaction is not an option. And like we heard in the plenary yesterday from Patricia Lambert, we will not take no for an answer. NCDs are not just health crises. They threaten our collective future, deepen inequalities, and hinder sustainable development. Now it is the time to turn commitments into action that would protect millions and build a healthier, more equitable world where no one is left behind. We represent here today the voices of billions living with NCDs, their families, their caregivers, their community. The call to lead has already been signed by over 370 organizations and 500 individuals from 99 countries. Those numbers are already impressive. I heard somebody on one of the panels say the other day they expected 6 million people to be here. Let's see if we can get 6 million people to sign on to this call to lead. It will be delivered to world leaders, and I believe it will serve as a powerful impetus for change. So once again, as I say, I invite you all to sign on if you haven't done so yet. But I also invite you, if you have, to encourage your memberships, your networks, your various spheres of influence, and your ministries of health to do the same. Alongside the call to lead, we amplify another critical call, the Kigali Youth Statement, which we will hear more about from one of our panelists later on. The Youth Statement launched today. Young people are driving change in the NCD response, calling for investment, accountability, and action. Their voices must be heard and factored into decision-making. These 2 statements together send that very clear message. Now is the time to act. Now is the time to lead. So now this brings us to our final plenary. And what we're going to do here in this panel discussion is focus a little bit further on what needs to happen from now until the end of September 25, and then, of course, beyond. How do we ensure that the commitments made in that political declaration take form as tangible actions at national level? We have a fantastic panel, and panelists, as I call your name, please come and join us here on the stage. So firstly, Dr. Kaushik Ramaiya. He's the Honorary General Secretary, Tanzania NCD Alliance, President of Africa NCDs Network, and Chair of the Forum Global Planning Committee. A fellow board member, Beatriz Champagne. She is Executive Director of CLAS, the Coalition for America's Health. I'm sure you all saw the next panelist on the dance floor. Stanley is from Malawi. He's the Global Advisory Committee member of Our Views, Our Voices initiative. A youth leader and advocate, Farah Feteha, is from the Egyptian Society of Adolescent Medicine. So we mentioned Leona M. and Harry B. Helmsley Charitable Trust has been our amazing strategic partner for the forum. James Reid is the Type 1 Diabetes Program Officer at the Trust. Thank you, James. And then Rory Neft is from UNICEF. He's the Senior Advisor of Health. Thank you for joining us, Rory. So again, thank you to the panel. Really appreciate you all being here this afternoon, but also for your wonderful contributions to the forum and to the NCD ecosystem. We're going to start by asking a very important question, given that the high-level meeting is a political meeting. How do we mobilize governments ahead of the UN high-level meeting? And I'm going to start with Kaushik to give us his reflections.
Thank you very much. I think there are clear messages which are coming out from this forum. And if I take the top three, one is the community mobilization and community involvement, including people living with NCDs. Two is integrated primary care. And third one is financing. And I think financing is a buzzword for the last 5 years, but nobody actually has understood what financing is. Because I think when you talk about innovative financing, I think now is coming crystal clear that within the innovative financing, you first of all need domestic financing. There has to be an empowerment of the ministry to take the responsibility and have domestic financing, and then the other financing can come in. So I think three clear messages, because if you go with a big menu or a large menu, people will not listen. But if you go with a very specific asks, and I feel that one of the crystallization of the last 3 days is these three major components. And if you are able to move with these three components, I think you will have achieved quite a lot.
Fantastic. I think we all heard about the clarity of the message, and that's what you've brought across. Yeah. I'm going to ask Beatriz the same question. Beatriz, your thoughts?
First of all, I want to mention how wonderful this forum was. In fact, I heard from one of the attendees that they want another day because they haven't been able to meet with all the people they want to meet. I think we want a strong declaration in September at the high-level meeting, but it is really the process before and after that is the key to getting support for NCDs in our region, in our countries. So in order to mobilize governments, one thing is to mobilize civil society as a regional organization. That's the first thing we do. And there it'll be fairly easy because we have a very determined civil society in Latin America. We have advocates that in most countries, and they know and have connections with government already, but they frequently don't have so much connection with the ministries of foreign affairs, with the missions in Geneva or in New York. So I think we need to facilitate that for them. It might be providing templates, might be materials, and of course the call to lead is wonderful, and it really can contribute to be able to talk to these different authorities. Another thing is to mobilize champions, because we got some very excellent presidents, ministries of health, that if we engage them, they will themselves help us get governments involved. And finally, I'm with Kaushik here, that communication will provide inspiration and we provide hope for good health and well-being. So I think that those are the things that would mobilize governments.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Beatriz. I think what was very helpful, there's some very practical points that we can take to our governments and to try and mobilize. I'm going to turn to you then, Chiku. So same question, but in particular, given the critical importance of those with lived experience, what would be your way of mobilizing governments?
Well, I think the first thing first is to ensure that they get the setting right. Persons with lived experience is not about checking the boxes. It's a right. It's not negotiable. So that's the first thing. And when you involve people with lived experience, we should be able to ensure that they're taken care of respectfully, and not just to ensure that we smile on the camera and say we've got 50 people with lived experience. Because at the end of the day, when you look at lived experience, we're looking at the power, the flame. We can have other messages, but where's the flame? It's the people with lived experience. So once ignited, it will spearhead and promote and propel the actions we're talking about. Without it, it's just going to be another ringing of loud noises. So they're very, very important in the fight, should be in the front and in the back and in the center. Words that I'm taking back home is, we need an army. We need an army of persons with lived experience. And in my running around of the 3 days, something that is also important is ammunition. An army without ammunition is as useless as sending people to die. We've got a lot of initiatives that are happening, technology that's going on, which when I go back home, I'm already working on some of them, so that by the time we get to September 25th, we have an army that is empowered, that is respected, and that is given their right to participate in the issues that affect them.
Fantastic. I think we must just make sure we get that last sentence and put it in all of our communications. Fantastic. Thank you so much. The next question is equally challenging because this is really important. We're moving from the steps to the solutions to be able to translate all of these discussions from the last 3 days into very tangible actions. So how do we get to actions? And I'm going to start with you, the voice of the youth. Farah, over to you.
Okay, is that working? Yeah. So in the youth statement, we had 4 main points that we need to work upon, and these 4 points are lead. So first, we need to leverage investment for a healthier future. Second, we need to enforce policies that prioritize the youth themselves. And then we have to advance accountability and institutionalize the meaningful youth participation. And finally, we need to, actually I lost it. So we need to drive change through collaboration and community engagement. And in that matter, I believe, or all youth here believe, that in the UN high-level meeting, we need to be there as youth. We need some youth representation in the UN high-level meeting because there is nothing for us without us. So if we are there, we can inspire more people like I myself was inspired in here. Thank you.
Oh, fantastic. Clearly you inspired the audience as well with that wonderful answer. And I think one of the big things that came through there is that the youth is the change agent. So wonderful. James, over to you from the voice of the foundations.
Yeah, thank you. First, I want to really congratulate NCD Alliance and our amazing host, the Rwanda NCD Alliance, for putting together a really incredible forum. I think in many ways the forum sort of confirmed a lot of Helmsley's ambitions as a foundation, but also challenged us to go farther and go deeper in that direction. A big takeaway for me, and I heard this come up in a lot of different sessions, is the importance of government-led solutions. So how as we can funders sort of empower the priorities, directions, and strategies like integrated care models that Professor Kaushik noted earlier. At the same time, I think we're really challenged that we need to be mindful that as we're advancing strategies, there are power dynamics at play, and we need to be very careful about making sure that the people around the table are people with lived experience, the youth who are bringing a new level of urgency and new perspective on how to solve problems, that we're not stopping at the highest level of capital alliances, but going deeper and making sure that community-based organizations are helping move the agenda forward. So in many ways, I'm leaving here excited, empowered, but also challenged to do better and do more. So thank you, everyone.
I think that's the best way to leave a meeting like this. It's actually challenged to go even deeper, even further. Thank you. I'm going to hand over to Rory now. Steps, solutions, and actions.
Yes, thank you so much. I just wanted to start off by saying it's a wonderful convention. It's been a very good conference, and I want to also thank everyone, the NCDA, for giving the opportunity for UNICEF and others to support the youth advocacy work. There was a pre-conference advocacy session, and there was a satellite session today. So thank you so much for that. In terms of translating into action, as we move towards the UNGA, I think first of all, we need to speak with one voice, everybody. We need to have common messages. We don't want our member states to receive different messages from different directions. So it makes it much easier if we all have common messages. And carrying on from the youth advocacy, that's what I want to talk about a little bit. As we look towards the high-level meeting on NCDs and mental health as well, the most vital asset are our children and youth for the future. Bringing the child and young people into the heart of NCDs is not just beneficial, but it's essential, actually. Children and adolescents are not only the future of society, but also current stakeholders in health policy. By involving them, we can tailor our approaches and their unique needs. Also, people living with NCDs as well and mental health issues. Very important to have them part of the discussions and the touch points that are leading up to advocating for what's going to come out at a high-level meeting. The leveraging youth advocacy needs to continue. That's very important. We really started very powerfully here. We must empower them as advocates, not just participants. The Kigali Youth NCD and Mental Health Statement stands as a powerful testament, I think, to what can be achieved. So we want that to be used and to build up as we move forward. The other area is more tangible actions. As UNICEF, of course, we are really keen to see that the child is at the heart of NCDs, and including child onset NCDs such as sickle cell disease, type 1 diabetes, rheumatic heart disease, and other conditions. And so we really look forward to moving that forward, because actually it's quite a large contributor to under 5 mortality. So it's actually part of child survival in a way. And so this comes to the next point that I'm interested to bring up, and that is the missed opportunity of including childhood NCDs, adolescent NCDs into maternal, newborn, child, and adolescent programs. If you go and see the policies and strategies and the operational implementation of MNCAH, NCDs is often missing. And yet there are all these millions of children that need care and support. So we are looking to see how we can advocate for inclusion into maternal, newborn, and child health programs. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I must say, as a pediatrician, that really rings very at the heart of what many of us believe. So thank you for that. I think somebody mentioned yesterday NCDs, and the C should stand for children. But the important thing is that we don't miss communities and that we bring everybody along. So thank you for that. I'm going to move back to this side. So we're going to go in the opposite direction now, I think. No, we're going to start with Beatriz. Beatriz, some of your thoughts there.
I am into very practical, as you can see, but I think that in next steps and solutions to issues that we might have, one is that we need to make NCDs and the high-level meeting very real to people in countries. I think that there is a lack of awareness of that it is unacceptable, it's inequitable, it's increasing. It's very much a major problem, but it is not sometimes perceived as such, and I think that needs to be done. We have a wonderful media outlet called Saludable Saberlo in our region, and I think Saludable Saberlo has to take that to heart. With civil society, I think we need clarity, because everybody needs to know what the priorities are. They need to know that call to lead almost by heart, to be able to speak from it with authorities and get very clear messages. And I want to mention something that Katie Dane mentioned yesterday as well. We have a very changing environment, and that environment can be very detrimental, or it can be an advantage in some ways. So I think that as possible, we need to take advantage of the changing paradigm that is, that is causing these changes, and maintain our commitment to conflict-free policies, because that is something that might be at risk, but I think that is one of the things that we need to ensure that we maintain. We're very committed to that in our region. And of course, take the messages from the forum back home. We were only 22 people, I think, from Latin America, so they have a lot of hard work to do. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Beatriz. Again, very practical suggestions. Learn the call to lead by heart, and then take them to your communities. Thank you for that. Chiku.
Well, I'll not repeat, but next steps. First of all, I think we have done a lot of work. I do commend that, but it's always been disjointed. So coming to the 25th of September, we need a united voice, a one voice. International, though in different languages, in different places, but it's got to be so unified that any leader who doesn't want to do what we are saying literally feels embarrassed, because everybody else will be doing that. Secondly, I think we need to do a lot of work in terms of advocating for the issues we're talking about. There are so many things that are going to be discussed, but what is the main issue? That's something we need to decide and agree on. And lastly, I would say it's caution, it's advice, it's a request. A United Nations high-level meeting for NCDs without people with NCDs, whose meeting is it then?
Very powerful words, and I think really things that we can grasp onto and work on to try and get enough of the action going, as you say, that flame, that passion, so that people can actually join us in our fight. So I think that's wonderful. I'm going to ask Kaushik for some final words in this area, some solutions from you, Kaushik.
Yeah, I think first at a country level, I think different NCD groups need to have one voice, because I think the issue here is each one is trying to fight for its own resources. So unless we have one umbrella under which we are working and trying to see how we can share the resources, I think so there has to be unity of all the NCD stakeholders in the country before you approach the ministry or you approach the politicians with one message, because otherwise you get multiple messages and messages get diluted. And the resources which are there are very limited. So you need to prioritize what are important things which will work. And when we call about integration, what we are talking about is which system or which input will work cost effectively, which will basically deliver to the majority. So I think we need to be efficient, we need to be having one voice, but at the same time we need to have unity of thoughts to really target what we want to do. Otherwise, we will not move any further, because with multiple messages, with everybody fighting for different resources, is going to be a challenge. Yeah.
Fantastic. Really, thank you very much for those answers. I think they're very helpful, and I think what we can hear is how we actually galvanize action, but do so with one voice and people-centered living experience, youth, all involved, so that we can achieve the highest possible outcomes at the high-level meeting. So one of the things that we saw on that little video, one of the words was collaboration and stakeholders. And we had all these stakeholders in the forum, but how can the collaboration or the stakeholders continue this collaboration to implement the commitments and ensure accountability? And Rory, I'm going to start with you to tackle that quite challenging question.
Yes, no, thank you so much. Again, I'll go to our youth because they were amazing in a number of sessions and their statement that has come out now. And I think that that's where they can also engage with communities. We should need to have a bottom-up approach. We need to have participation by communities and people living with NCDs. So first we must leverage the power of youth advocacy. That's what it is. Young people are not just the future. Their insights through initiatives like the Kigali youth statement that came out here, I think that should directly inform policy. So the whole discussion was, and it was intergenerational. We had the youth advocates, and then we had mentors. And there was this very interesting interaction between the two. And the question that we had was, how can youth advocacy contribute to getting the policies, informing the policymakers and getting policies updated? And of course, our interest is to also have NCDs included in support and care for young people and children. The other one is UN coordination. Since I come from UNICEF, I think it's important that the UN speak with one voice as well, and all our friends in the NGO community and beyond. So this is crucial. We'll work to integrate NCD commitments into broader UN agendas, the SDG, for example, the framework, monitoring framework. The monitoring framework is 30 to 70 years of age. That means that there's not enough data on people below the age of 30 for NCDs and mental health in many respects, and of course children. So something needs to be done there, I think. And then in terms of financing, leveraging resources, the UN can align better. And there's an example, the Health for Life Fund, which has been set up as a multi-partner trust fund between UNDP, UNICEF, and WHO. And the countries can develop proposals and use small amounts of catalytic investments to support the gaps that they have for moving things forward. So we are keen to keep that moving. And then accountability mechanisms. I already touched on that. Establishing clear accountability mechanisms is essential. Monitoring systems are needed where progress is tracked, and stakeholders report back on their commitments. So by integrating these strategies, youth advocacy, community engagement, strategic funding, and UN coordination, we can ensure that post-high-level landscape is one of action, accountability, and tangible progress. Thank you.
Oh, fantastic. Tangible progress. I think that's very important. But I think what you brought out also is leveraging in multiple ways, leveraging the communication, leveraging the stakeholders, the diverse stakeholders that we have, and of course all the ammunition that we've gained from the last 3 days. I'm going to turn to this direction now. Chiku, your thoughts on this one. How can we collaborate? How can all these stakeholders collaborate, especially for accountability post the UN high-level meeting?
Well, I think the first thing first, it's the beginning is what matters, and this is the beginning. And I have hope and faith and dedication that as we continue to work this direction, we should be able to get results, not just before the meeting, but even post the meeting, because collaboration is not just for the meeting. We're going to get to a point of implementation, monitoring, which we need that very same collaboration. But I think, to put it bluntly, it's time to stop being greedy. Stop thinking about you and think about everybody. We need a unilateral approach. We need a multitask approach. We need to be able to cover all the bases, not just your message. It is important, but in the long run, like the saying says, if you want to run fast, run alone. But if you want to run far, do it with people. So we need to go far. That means we need to stop running alone and run together.
Fantastic, lovely. I think that's a very important sentence, considering we are holding this forum in Africa. That's an old African proverb, but has really been a North Star for many people working in this area. James, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I think Chiku's comments really resonate with me. I think coming into this forum, my real hope is that we would realize that, frankly, we're a lot stronger together rather than alone. I think there's a real possibility that we move into, I think what Professor Kaushik described as a really fractured request to our governments, our communities. But if we're focusing our agenda, aligning around the shared messages that we've been discussing this week, we're really going to move more forward and more with a more resilient, responsive, inclusive, and equitable agenda than if we're just pushing our own singular niche issue alone. I think fortunately this week what I've seen is a lot of great conversations and sessions, but a lot of people meeting and connecting in ways that I didn't really anticipate, but was really glad to see new partnerships being formed in real time in corners and at the Radisson, and I'm hopeful that that will continue. I think one, sort of commitment that I want to make, and I encourage others to think about, is that moving together as one voice is not, I think, just one meeting, but rather a proactive approach that we need to keep moving forward every day. It means making connections, going out of your way to link people together, to share resources that might be applicable to a different group. It means challenging people to see a new perspective when maybe they're missing something. And that requires a little bit more effort than most of our job descriptions require, or our own causes motivate us to. But I think, to Chiku's point, pushes us farther together.
Fantastic. I think one of the things that you've just said is to remind us of having this diverse set of people around the table. So in every meeting from now until September and beyond, make sure you can look around the table and say, is that diversity represented here? Yeah. Do we have all the voices around the table, and then take that message forward? And of course, the one message or the one person around the table needs to be the youth. So I'm going to hand over to Farah for the last comment on this one.
Yeah, so there is one thing that I really needed to say, that when I do read about NCDs, when I go to conferences and so on, it's mostly research or data presented by older people, not by youth. So you need to take our point of view into account, and that's what we did in the Kigali Youth Statement, that we put in it the things that we need, the things from our own point of view. And that's really important, because you cannot do something for us from your own point of view, because there is a generational gap. So I believe that... So I believe that we need to tailor the policy, we need to tailor the ideas, we need to tailor the movement to the youth, because we are the future of the future, and that's what we need. We need you to hear from us and to understand what we actually need, not what you think we need, and that's it. Thank you.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that we sometimes forget is that the youth are often lived experience as well as being risk factored, and so that we use that lens for having youth voices to remind us of how critical you are in the discussion. So thank you very much for that. What a wonderful set of comments from our panelists, some practical suggestions, some North Star points that we can use as our guide over the next months. And we're really very impressed that we've got some practical solutions, we've got actions, we've got immediate takeaways, but also a reminder that we are all in this venue called upon to act and to lead. And we have now an opportunity to commit ourselves. So what we're going to ask you to do is do a little bit of action again. We want to take out those smartphones. We were saying how we use technology for all kinds of things. It's one of the ammunitions. Here's another tool. And we're going to put up a QR code. And we would like you to answer this question. We just saw it there for a moment. It'll come back. And the question is, what is your personal commitment? What are you committing to? And in this way, to take NCDs or to take the movement on NCDs forward. And you have only one word. So I know this is difficult and challenging. Our panelists had a few more words, but I'm sure there's many in there that you can use. So I see the collaboration has come up. We knew it was going to come up. Excellent. So action, research. So somebody said in one of the plenaries, if it's not counted, it doesn't count. Generate more data, access. So access is a very important one, although collaboration is really still going very strong. Advocacy. Now I'm showing my age because I'm starting to not be able to see. So let me turn around and have a look a little bit closer. So just wonderful things here. Integration on mental health, mobilizing resources. And we know from this incredible week that we've just had, we need to do that at a local level and do that in a sustainable fashion. Engagement is very strong. Financing, Kaushik, this is for you, but it's for all of us. Integration. I love youth is coming up. Amplification. Love that one as well. Partnerships, proactive, generate new partnerships, money, raising our voices. So raising our voices as strong and as loud as possible. Believe that we can. Wonderful. Sharing, solidarity. Speak the truth. Speak truth to power. We heard about that yesterday when we reflected on the lives and the legacy of Vicky and Charity. It keeps coming. We've got 380 something responses, and now it really is too small for all of us to see. But what's interesting for me is one of the biggest words that's there is still collaboration, advocacy, and action. Fantastic. Give yourselves a round of applause. Keeping on going. Really exciteful and impactful, but remember these are commitments. So as you take your planes or your various transports home, that commitment must go with you. So we have a few more minutes with our panel, and we're going to do a rapid fire exercise. And I think you've all prepared for this because we were telling you before the time, if you don't do it in 30 seconds, there will be consequences. But what we are looking at is one hope and again, one commitment. And I think we'll start on this side and then just move our way back to Kaushik. So Rory, let me start with you.
Okay. Child inclusion. So that's what we want, we're going to be committed to, having children living with the NCDs, their families, included in expanding and consolidating NCD services and care within the health systems, so strengthening the health systems, but ultimately making sure that where they've been left out, that they're now included and can receive the care and support that they need to survive and improve their well-being into their adult lives.
Fantastic, to survive and to thrive. Fantastic. Let's hear from you, James.
I really hope that this forum has yielded some deeper collaboration between partners, and for my part, I commit to being a part of a change maker in that direction, and that means fostering partnerships that are inclusive, that are equitable, but also responsive to the engagement that I'm receiving. So yeah, I think we're headed in a strong direction.
A big commitment, but a very important one. I hope this is still working, yes. Farah.
Yes, I think, is that working? Okay, so I think that what I hope for is more youth exploitation, that you need to use us, guys. We are a lot, so use us.
Fantastic. Thank you. And your commitment?
And my commitment, we will work. Just give us the place, give us the time, give us the resources, and you will see what we can do.
What more could we ask? Brilliant. Chiku.
Well, I have two. Firstly, collaboration, especially in our region. I commit to ensure that there's collaboration. I promote collaboration. Secondly, the right to participation or meaningful involvement of persons with lived experience, which may involve enacting silent voices. That is something that I should be working on now and going forward. There are many voices. We see the stats, and the number of people that are lived experience speaking don't tally. There should be more people out there who can speak.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Beatriz?
Yes. To me, people are enormously powerful, and sometimes they don't recognize the power they have. Like we hear from our youth group, from people with lived experience. And I think what my word is power, is unleashing the power that each of us has and the power that as a community we have, particularly in some of these troubled times where maybe our values need to be held on to and have the determination to continue to strengthen our principles. Do I have to tell you my commitment?
You do?
I do? Okay. Well, my commitment is to courage, because I think, again, in these troubled times, we are all going to be called to have courage. And I think that that's the commitment that I'm making.
That's an important commitment in this day and age, to actually have courage, the moral courage. So thank you for that, Beatriz. And Kaushik, you have the last word.
Yeah, I would say first is the empowered community advocacy, a community which is empowered and has the right way to do the advocacy. So it is an empowered community advocacy. And my commitment is to lead and to make sure that we achieve our goal.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. This is so it's such an inspirational and motivating end to this forum and this wonderful panel. We've heard the regional representation from Africa, from the Americas, but speaking actually about the whole global issue, the critical voice of youth, the community and lived experience warriors. We have heard the reflections of our very important partners, foundation, funders, and global agencies. I think this is an important time to remind us also of the 5 NCDA focus areas: accelerate action and implementation, mobilize investment, breaking down the silos. We talked about some silos during this panel. Deliver the accountability and community engagement at the absolute center. I thought I'd take the opportunity to talk about my hope and commitment. So the hope is for sustainable funding with local leadership, and I think we certainly need that in this week. And my own commitment is to strengthen our local partnerships, firstly in South Africa, but also to make sure that at every one of those, what we do is person-centered and led by those with lived experience. So we have a very big task ahead, but as Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela said, and I quote, "It is always seems impossible until it is done. So at this point, I'd like to thank our panelists very sincerely. Please give them a warm round of applause as they take their seats. So before I take my seat, I just want to welcome to the stage Professor Joseph Muchimbitsi, the chairperson of the Rwanda NCD Alliance, the co-host for the 4th Global NCD Alliance Forum, cardiologist and president of the East Africa NCD Alliance. Joseph has been a long-standing friend and colleague, and we really have to congratulate you, Joseph, for the incredible work that you've done. It is my absolute pleasure to hand the stage over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone, friends, delegates, colleagues. First and foremost, I would like to thank all of the delegates who have attended this year's forum. It has been your enthusiasm, engagement, and contributions which have made these past 3 days such a success. Rwanda NCD Alliance and myself are so proud to have hosted this first Global NCDA Forum in the Sub-Saharan Africa region and in our beautiful country, Rwanda. I hope that over the last few days, you have been able to enjoy our rich culture, dance particularly, and our traditions, as well as the innovations we have been witnessing here in our progressive city. And of course, I hope most of all that you have learned, networked, and been charged up with inspiration, motivation to continue our difficult but essential shared work to bring up real changes on NCDs during this critical year. The leadership on NCDs that we are seeing from these and other regions is truly remarkable. I have been involved in the field of NCDs now for over 2 decades as a cardiologist and an advocate at national and global levels. And yet, after witnessing the vibrancy and strength of NCD civil society, I leave this forum feeling humbled and inspired with a sense of real optimism. I can say that in Rwanda and in Africa, NCD civil society has come such a long way. We have seen new national and regional alliances and existing alliances that have grown so much stronger and more effective. Many alliances from this region today are working hand in hand with governments, as well as building demand for action and raising awareness on NCDs in communities. And the launch of the East African Community NCD framework is an evidence that these efforts are not in vain, and that NCDs are being prioritized in the region more now than ever before. If you rewind a decade ago, we were in a very different situation, and that is thanks to the work of advocates like you are in this room. Before we bring this year's forum to a close, I would like to pay a special tribute to the government of Rwanda, to the Ministry of Health and the Rwanda Biomedical Center, and our local partners who got behind the forum from the offset, even after it had been postponed due to the Marburg outbreak. Their leadership on NCDs is nothing short of trailblazing, and I hope their achievement inspire other countries as living proof that real progress can be made. I also would like to thank the key regional institutions whose partnership and collaboration have made this forum in Rwanda such a success. I mentioned WHO Rwanda, the WHO Africa Regional Office, the Africa CDC for Disease Control, and the East African Community. This year's forum marks the beginning and not the end of a new era of greater momentum and collaboration, as it has been mentioned during this panel, in this country and in the region, which has started through partnership like this and through all of your engagement and leadership. It is up to each of us to continue the momentum of the forum to keep NCDs high on the political agenda, that the commitment of this call to lead. We have a true opportunity in this month leading up to the high-level meeting for NCDs in September. It will take everyone's dedication and commitment have been made during the panel, So as I was saying, we have this true opportunity needing everyone's dedication and commitment, which I have seen through so brilliantly during these past days, and we need a strong and unified approach coming from all of Africa to make this year's high-level meeting a game-changing moment for the region. So I hope you all will roll up your sleeves and put all that we have learned here into action. Starting right here in Kigali, we can create a ripple effect that extends regionally and globally. That's the goal of this call to lead and this Kigali Youth Declaration that we have committed to support. I also hope some of you are staying until at least tomorrow, until tomorrow morning to enjoy the car-free day. Please register using the QR code which is projected here, so that you can join, you can come, run, walk, join the local community in some group activities, and get to know the people in the city of Kigali. When you register, you will then be registered for transport arrangement organization, which will be communicated. I thank you in advance for joining in this experience. And with these remarks and sentiment, we mark the final words and the official closing of this forum. Thank you to all of you, to each one of you, and I wish you safe journey back home. Murakoze, thank you very much.
I promise this will be the last address. Dear colleagues, delegates, youth, and tireless advocates, as we approach the end of this transformative 4th Global NCD Alliance Forum, I stand here deeply inspired, energized, and hopeful. Hopeful not because the target in front of us is small, but because the determination and commitment in this auditorium is both enormous and palpable. On behalf of NCD Alliance, I would like to say thank you once more to the Leona M. and Harry B. Helmsley Charitable Trust for their financial support and steadfast partnership in making this year's forum possible. And thank you to our 38 other generous sponsors for their commitment, contribution, and support. I would also like to thank our local hosts, the Rwanda NCD Alliance, with Professor Mukumbitsi and his wonderful team, as well as local partners, the Rwanda Ministry of Health and Rwanda Biomedical Center, for their endless support, and of course, the NCD Alliance team, whose relentless dedication and very hard work have delivered this high-quality event. KT and NCDA staff team, please raise your hands. Take a bow. You have worked really hard. I also thank each and every one of the delegates who traveled from across the world, bringing with you not just expertise, but also stories, lived experience, and shared commitment to drive meaningful change. Your contribution over the past 3 days have been nothing short of extraordinary. Well done. For this year's forum here in Kigali, we have convened under the theme of Leadership on NCDs in 2025 and beyond. We did not just talk about leadership, we witnessed it. We heard from our trailblazer governments that they are taking progressive action on NCDs. We heard from governments like Ghana, the Seychelles, Kenya, Mexico, which have shown such tremendous leadership on NCDs. We have also seen their commitment on access to care in the past years. And for particularly government of Rwanda, the excellent leadership on NCDs, and very recently with the swift containment of the Marburg virus outbreak. Congratulations to the government of Rwanda. We have been inspired and encouraged by the passion and dedication of civil society organizations, alliances, youth advocates, and people living with non-communicable diseases, the true change agents of this movement, who have now committed to turning this tide on NCDs. Their energy, tenacity, will be key to achieving the time-bound commitments we are aiming to see in the outcome of the 4th high-level meeting on non-communicable diseases, which is just about 220 days away. Also, during these 3 days, we have been able to coordinate ahead of this golden opportunity to make real progress, uniting behind 5 key priorities: to accelerate action, break down silos between NCDs and other global priorities, mobilize sustainable investment, deliver commitments, deliver accountability, and engage communities. We also have the call to lead on NCDs to catalyze and guide action among governments. By hosting the forum in sub-Saharan Africa for the very first time, we have set in motion a powerful legacy, not just for this region, but for global health. At this critical moment, we must continue calling for greater leadership on NCDs to deliver environments that promote health, to deliver tried and tested public health policies that yield results, to deliver a world that ensures all people have right to access safe, affordable medicines and treatment, to deliver the world that we want. We now know the clock is ticking. We have 7 months until the UN high-level meeting on NCDs and 5 years to achieve the SDGs. The time to lead is now. I would like to charge each of you to carry this urgency back home. Return to your countries with renewed energy, sharpened advocacy, and refusal to accept the status quo. I want to end by thanking everyone in this room for your commitment, passion, and dedication to NCDs and for joining us here in Kigali. I look forward to continued collaboration on the road to high-level meeting and beyond. Let's not just leave with ideas. Let us leave with a mission. Let's be louder, push harder, and demand more, because we are not just participants in this fight against NCDs. We are its leaders. I now declare the forum officially closed. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and safe travels.
Igihugu nakumbuye